Chris Broussard joins us on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. Look, obviously these are big statements to refuse to go out and play. I think it's a mistake because part of what the Bucks were willing to do is they're willing to lose the game for their unhappiness to be noted, to be known for a demanding of a change. Does it take away from it at all that the NBA is like, don't worry about it, we're just going to postpone the games?
No, not at all. And the report I saw from Stephanie Reedy on NBA TV, she said that the Bucks, now there were conflicting reports. I know one report had I saw something, it may have been false, but that the Magic were refusing to accept the forfeit. And then that they made it jointly, like the Bucks and the Magic made the decision jointly. So I don't think, the Bucks would have to lose the game. I think this is a huge statement, Doug, obviously. And I got to be honest, obviously I'm African American. I've never been more proud of black athletes in my life. Never been more proud. This shows that they are willing to sacrifice their own individual money, basketball goals for the betterment of African American people. And I couldn't salute them anymore for what they've done. I think it's tremendous.
What change is reasonable to demand that could be seen as a reason to go, okay, change is coming, let's get back out on the floor and play basketball?
The players in Milwaukee probably want the arrest of the officer who shot Jacob Blake. I would imagine that that's their most immediate goal. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time for things like police reform and long-term goals. I personally think there should be systemic change in education and economic areas as well as the judicial system or the criminal justice system. But obviously that's a longer time. I do think the players have immediate goals in mind. And like I said, it's probably the arrest of the cop that shot Jacob Blake and the firing of him as well. He's on leave right now, so firing and arrest.
Well, you can't. The problem with asking somebody to be fired is it's just like the NBA with a guaranteed contract and unions. There is protection there, obviously. I think the arrest, it's all going to depend upon the pace of the investigation. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing because with an arrest, then he can post bail or bond or whatever. He's not being held in general population. And, then he'll have his day in court. If it ever comes to trial, I would assume it would. The investigation continues. I don't think that's unreasonable. But the firing of a police officer is hard to do because of the unions. And that's where, even yesterday when Doc was...
times the powerful, this, look at we know a few instances. The football players at the University of Missouri, was it 2015, I believe, when they threatened to boycott a game. They wanted the president fired, or he ended up resigning, obviously, under pressure. But the regular student body had been calling for his resignation or firing for weeks and months. The football players said, we're not playing this weekend, and he was gone within 72 hours. I also look at Meek Mill. Meek Mill, powerful black athletes and entertainers have been trying to get him out of prison for months, 5 months, I believe. Robert Kraft, the owner for the Patriots, gets involved, and within 2 weeks, Meek Mill is out. The thing is, these, owners are obviously very powerful men, and they have connections. You know how America works. And they have connections to powerful people, and they can get things done quickly. And I think that's what the players are counting on. You kind of heard Fred VanVleet.
No, listen, I understand that. I would tell you that again. Here's where I think players are a little bit stuck, right? I think if we got down to it, there's a bunch of different issues. One of the big issues is that unions protect all of their members, and this happens with every union. That's what they do. right? And I think even if you ask police officers, you'd be like, look, and I don't know about this particular cop and the number of complaints or whatever, but one of the issues that police officers have is that there are cops that they all want to have gone because they bring down the image of the entire police department, but the unions protect them. And by the way, the unions are supported by the same party that most of the players seem to support, right? So there's a little bit of
I mean, look, the players shouldn't. We as African Americans, which most of the players are, I don't think we should be locked into one of the two parties. So I hear you on that. But and that's a good starting point, though. I do believe, like, as these players are making demands of, the NBA, not the NBA, but demands of the owners or the lawmakers by boycotting, I agree. I think they and African Americans should demand something of their vote. Why are we, if we're going to vote for you, then what are we getting out of it? So I'm with you in your thinking there, and hopefully the players recognize that, because if they're going to support that party, then they should get something out of it. And it could be very much related to what they want with this boycott.
Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. So what about the teams tomorrow, right? Like, these teams all had their game, they're boycotting all postponed. Like, if the guy's arrested tonight, did they play tomorrow?
I was not surprised at all with what. Look, once the Bucks and Magic did it, you knew the other two games, the other four teams playing. You know what I mean? Like, they had no choice. LeBron, we all know how much he wants this championship and how all in he has always been on it. He wasn't thinking about boycotting during the shutdown, but he had no choice. He had no choice. Can you imagine what he would look like with all the social work he's done? It would all be for naught if he had decided, no, we're going to play. And I think, Doug, the same thing will be the case tomorrow. I mean, like you make a good point. What are they asking? There has to be an ask. There has to be an ask. And so when we find out what exactly that ask is, then we'll know more about the games going forward. But I would imagine right now, Doug, they're not going to play tomorrow. But here's the thing. As we were talking about the powerful men that run the NBA, you don't think an Adam Silver, a Mark Lazary, some of these other powerful owners could make some things happen?
Like what?
Quickly?
Like what?
Well, like I said, the arrest of the officer. And
no, I don't. I actually don't.
Unions.
I think arresting. I think what can happen is you can end up having the opposite of the intended effect. Okay, this is really important for people to realize. Like, look, if you really this is a big thing for me. Everybody wants justice, and that is a reasonable desire in our country, right? And what justice looks like, and I think this is what you're saying, Chris, and so is guy gets arrested, evidence is collected, goes to trial, and if it's a bad shoot, he goes to jail. If it's a clean shoot, he doesn't, right? That's what justice actually looks like. You don't have to agree with the decision, whatever a jury or the judge finds, but that's justice. And in the meantime, like there's a process of getting to it. The issue with forcing the hand of the state attorney general to arrest a guy before an investigation is complete and interviews are conducted is you run the risk of hurting the investigation of a possible mistrial. Like, there's a reason everything takes time. I got it. You got him on film shooting a guy. It doesn't appear to be that hard. But I'm also not a lawyer, and I don't know about the proper protocols that have to be in place. And I know that if NBA guys think, hey, if we don't play a game, you have to arrest a guy, and even though that's not the way it works, it ends and could end up having the opposite of the intended effect, and you don't get the justice that people are rightfully demanding.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things go on behind the scenes and that steps are skipped in various situations. And I think that these wealthy corporate titans in America, just like I brought up Meek Mill, why all of a sudden Robert Kraft, in 2 weeks, Meek Mill was out. 2 weeks. They have been saying the same things you're saying. It takes months, it takes time, and this and that. 2 weeks it was out. Robert Kraft, when the trouble he got into down in Florida, it disappeared. It can happen, and I think that's what the players are looking for.
Chris Broussard, you check him out on The Odd Couple. That is 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. Chris, great stuff. Thanks for joining us.
All right, man.